Today, I'm talking about happiness with Dr. Alan Lycka, a retired cosmetic surgeon, speaker, coach, mentor, best-selling author from Edmonton, Canada. Dr. Lycka co-authored the best-selling book, The Secrets to Living a Fantastic Life, with Harriet Tinka, a former fashion model and woman of distinction. He's also written another 17 books and more than 30 academic papers, and hosted the #1 internet radio show in the world, Inside Cosmetic Surgery Today. Dr. Lycka is the co-founder of Doctors for the Practice of Safe and Ethical Aesthetic Medicine and the founder of the Canadian Skin Cancer Association. He won the prestigious Consumer's Choice Award for cosmetic surgery for 16 consecutive years. So happy to have you around. Welcome on the podcast, Dr. Lycka.
Thank you for having me. It is truly a privilege to be on your show.
Thank you. You're very kind. So, Dr. Lycka, what is happiness to you?
You know, happiness is a feeling people get when things are going right for them. You know, it is funny how our primitive brain can act in two ways. One is it can act sadly, and we could be miserable about things. Now, the other thing we could do is choose to look at the good things around us. And by doing so, that stimulates us to have this feeling called happiness. Happiness is joy. Happiness is ebullition. Happiness is knowing all the good things are there. And it comes about partly from expecting good things from happening. Now, when you expect good things to happen, good things happen. If you expect bad things to happen, bad things will happen. You know, I think it was Henry Ford that said, if you think you can, or if you think you can't, you're right.
Yeah, true. It sounds amazing. So have you always been happy? Have you always exuded this kind of appreciation for life and excitement?
You know, I've tried to be a happy person all my life, but as life often does, it throws us curveballs, so we can't always be happy. Back in 2003, I was sailing along and I went to Disneyland with my dear wife, Lucy. And my wife looked at me and she said, "What's wrong with you, hon?" And I said, "I don't think there's anything wrong." She said, "Your foot, it's flapping." I said, "What do you mean?" She said, "Listen to your foot." Well, my right foot had suddenly and mysteriously developed a right foot drop. So it was slapping on the pavement with each step I was taking. She said, "Did you have a stroke?" I said, "Dear, you're a doctor. I'm a doctor. If I had a stroke, I wouldn't be walking like I am now." Well, she said, "When you get back, you better get this checked out." Now, Nicoletta, when your spouse tells you to do that, what do you do?
Or you do it. There's no
You
question
do it.
about it.
There's no question whatsoever. You do it. And so when I got back, I started seeing doctors. And they referred me to more doctors. And they referred me to more doctors. They did so many tests, I can't count them. They did CAT scans. They did brain scans. I think they even did scans. And you know what they showed at the end of the day?
I'm curious.
They showed absolutely nothing.
Right.
The doctors were perplexed. They thought I had a brain tumor, or I thought I had slipped disc or something they can blame it on. And you know what doctors do when they find absolutely nothing?
They invent something. They
They
guess.
they either invent something or they do more tests. And so they did every test known to man back then. And they did more tests and more tests. And they still came back as absolutely nothing. So they sent me to a world-leading neurologist. Now, a neurologist is the brain doctor. He's the guy that's supposed to have all the answers to all these complex problems. So I walked in and I said, "Hi." He said, "Hi back. But you better be sitting down when I tell you this." I said, "Why?" I have a slip. I have a dropped right foot. He said, no, you don't. He said, you have ALS, Lou Gehrig's disease. He said, you are going to be dead in 6 months. Get your affairs in order. This was in 2003, and my life imploded. I was not happy at that time. I went through miserableness. You know, when your life implodes, you go through things. You go through the stages of death and dying that Elizabeth Kubler-Ross wrote in her book on death and dying. You go through anger because you're angry at the world. I mean, here you've been told you're going to die, so you're going to be angry. And I was angry at everybody. I was angry at my wife. I was angry at my children. I was angry at my patients. I was angry at my staff. But I couldn't tell them what was wrong because I was going to be dead in 6 months. You go through bargaining. Oh, God, please don't let this happen. I'll do anything if you don't let this happen. I went through denial. Oh, everything's just fine. I can do anything. But, you know, my right hand started not working properly. And so I couldn't hold the surgical instruments that I used to be able to hold properly. Oh. But, you know, Nicoletta, I was smart. I learned how to become a left-handed surgeon. And so I could do everything with my left hand that my right hand could do. And, you know, back in that time of life, they didn't even have all the tools invented for left-handed doctors then, because most doctors were right-handed. So I had to invent tools to make them work properly. And then you go through depression. Nicoletta, have you ever been depressed?
Not really. I can't lie. I've had some lows now and again, but nothing significant to.
Good, because depression is the worst thing that can happen to you. I call them the black days. Those are the days when everything doesn't matter. You could stay in bed all day staring at the ceiling and not doing anything. Why? You're going to die anyhow. So why do anything? You know, I had seen people die from ALS. It's a terrible disease. People end up gasping for air and their body literally shrivels away. And that is a terrible thing. Now, I had said, I'm not going to die like this. So I even had planned on committing suicide. So I worked out a plan. But before I did that, I went to my wife and I said, dear, what do I have? She said, I haven't got the faintest idea, but you can figure it out, she said. I said, how can I? I've seen all these doctors and they couldn't figure it out. She said, well, perhaps you haven't seen the right doctor yet. Mm-hmm. Now that was brilliant. And back in 2003, something new was invented. You might have heard about it. It's called the internet.
Yes. And you started asking Google to do the proper diagnosis.
Yeah. But you know, back then we didn't have Dr. Google. We didn't have Dr. Yahoo. Yes. We just had primitive ways of getting on the internet. And so you could put a phone on a cradle and it would dial up the internet and it would go ria.
I remember that. I'm old enough to remember that.
Well, that's right. And the reason why I tell everybody that is the younger generation would say, that's crazy. I mean, you just get on a terminal and you talk to Dr. Google and no, that's not the way it was. You had to have friends that could help go on the internet and find these places that were there. And fortunately, I had friends that were nerds, that were pioneers in all this. And they found a doctor in Colorado Springs, Colorado, by the name of David Martz. And David Martz was a doctor that had a story very similar to mine, but different. You see, he got much worse, much more rapidly than I did. And he was on his deathbed within weeks of his diagnosis. Now, David was such a well-known person. Everybody loved him, and they were coming up to see him and say goodbye to him. And then Dr. Harvey came up from Texas, and he looked at David, and he said to David, David, I don't think you have ALS. I don't think you have Lou Gehrig's disease. He said, what do I have? The doctor from Texas said, I think you have chronic Lyme's disease. I think you've been bitten by a tick. And that's mimicking ALS, he said. And he said, if we start you on treatment, I can make you better. And that's when a miracle happened. He started him on treatment and he got rapidly better.
And you found out about him?
The answer is I phoned every hospital in Colorado Springs, Colorado, and I got in touch with David. And David told me he started a clinic to treat people with this weird disease. He had over 2,000 patients with it. So I said, can I come down? He said, please. He said, can you come down right now? And I told him I can't. I said, it's Thanksgiving in Canada. My wife will kill me. She's invited 50 people over. He said, aren't there any planes in Canada? So I talked to my wife. I apologized not for coming. And she said, you have to go. You have to go see this doctor. And I went there. And I talked to David, and we talked for hours. And he said some magic words. He said, history is repeating itself. He said, I'm going to start you on treatment, and I think I can make you better. And that's why I'm here in 2022, still living and thriving and doing all the things that I've done. I was able to maintain myself as a top cosmetic surgeon until 2019, when I walked away to help people in other ways that I know how to do. And so it's been a marvelous journey. And I'm here today talking to you so that we can inspire others to realize that no matter how bleak it is, no matter how things are going, there's always hope. There's always something you can do, and life will help you. It's funny, when you put out the right thoughts, things take care of themselves. And it's amazing how life is like that. Life starts to show things when you put out the right signals.
It sounds absolutely amazing. I loved listening to you. And I find your story so inspiring and empowering at the same time. So I wanted to ask how it's been like for you to go through this misdiagnosis, but you've already answered the question. It's amazing that things like this happen, and you are a happy case. Everything ended up well for you.
I don't blame the doctor that made the diagnosis of ALS. A doctor can only know what he knows.
Yes,
and
true.
ALS is a diagnosis of exclusion.
Yes.
It literally, they had done every test that they knew how to do.
Yeah.
In 2003, people had not heard of chronic Lyme's disease. In fact, even in 2022, there are people that will argue that chronic Lyme's disease does not exist.
Really?
Now, I find that crazy, because we do have chronic COVID disease. There is this long-term COVID disease that we see, yet we still argue about chronic Lyme's disease. That makes no sense to me.
No, but you see, medicine is still experimental, and people need a bit more, evidence to be convinced. And
medicine is one of the most crazy things. It often is that people are resistant to ideas, and then all of a sudden it's self-evident. People resisted vaccines for a long time. They didn't think they'd be healthy. But, when people started getting them and preventing diseases from them, they realized that vaccines were something that would help people. That's why we have smallpox vaccine. That's why we have polio vaccine. That's why we have mumps, measles, and rubella vaccines. And that's largely why we're here today on this planet, because we were able to overcome those diseases of childhood that cost millions of lives in years gone by.
Yeah, that's true. But at the end of the day, you mentioned it, you said it yourself. We can only know what we know, and it's all about our limitations, our narrow beliefs, our narrow understanding. So I'd like to now move the discussion a little bit towards your profession as a cosmetic surgeon. Obviously, you've had thousands probably of patients. I'd like to ask, why do we associate physical appearance with happiness? Because I would assume that many of the people came for cosmetic reasons. They
Yeah,
want to improve their appearance.
Many people want to look their best and be their best. Now, there's nothing wrong with that. People always want to look their best. There's a saying, you don't have a second chance to make a first impression. And we always associate that beauty is one of the things that's necessary for life. It's funny. When I started my practice, there was a treatment invented called Botox, which is the most common cosmetic procedure done in the world. And what Botox consists of is a little injection into this area. And what it does is it literally smooths this area and prevents you from frowning. Now, it's funny that when people are frowning, they look angry and they look mean. Now, that is one of the things that is one of the simplest things to correct on a person. Because what Botox does is it paralyzes the muscles in this area for 4 to 6 months, so you can't frown. And what it does is it makes this area a little wider. Now, they've done studies that have shown that when a person gets Botox, they look friendlier, they look happier, they look nicer. And so that little treatment has become one of the biggest treatments in the world because people associate that with happiness, and happiness is something people like. They like people that are friendly. They like people that are happy. They like people that are smiling. They don't like people that are mean and snarling. They don't like people that are angry all the time. So that has become one of the biggest cosmetic procedures in the world for that reason.
It makes sense. But do patients really do it for others or for themselves? Do they want to see themselves looking in a particular way, or they just go through all of these procedures to make a good impression on others?
I think everybody does this to make themselves feel better and look better. I think people do this because they want to do their best and be their best. And it's human nature to want to be their best and do their best at everything they do. So appearance is another thing that way. Why do people color their hair when their hair is turning gray? Because they want to look young and they want to look youthful. Gray hair is associated with looking old and things like that. Now, for me, it doesn't matter. I've been silver-haired for years, but not everybody wants to be silver-haired.
Very smart. The question is now, when they do these procedures, do they actually feel happier? What's been your experience now with returning patients?
I think most people who get cosmetic procedures done feel better and look better. That's why they keep getting them done. Now, cosmetic procedures are not a one-time thing. They have to be done quite often, over and over and over again, to keep a person at the level they want to be. The nature of the human existence is for things to start to go to disrepair. Things start to fall apart as we get older. So to keep them at a good level, you have to do things. If you exercise just today and just did exercise today and expect it to work for the rest of your lifetime, it's not going to do it. You have to be on a regular routine to make it that way. And I think that's true of a lot of things in life. You've got to work at things and make things better that way.
Very smart. That's very wise. Well, I can't say anything else. Now, what's your view on cosmetic surgery dependency? Do you believe that body dysmorphia exists, that people become dependent on doing procedures more invasive and
I don't think a person will necessarily get more and more and more involved in cosmetic surgery just by starting things. I mean, a person who gets Botox or some fillers into their face doesn't mean they're going to have a facelift. It doesn't mean they're going to go and get their body redone. No, I think everybody decides at their own level what they're happy with. And that's where they try to stay at and come that way. Now, there are people that are sick that have a body dysmorphism, but those are rare. Those affect maybe 1 out of 1,000 or 1 out of 10,000 people. And a cosmetic surgeon has to be very careful about them. And the biggest word that a cosmetic doctor has to say is the word no. This procedure is not right for you. This procedure is not something you should do because it's not going to make you happy. And so when a doctor talks to a person about cosmetic surgery, the first thing they often ask them is, why do you want to get this done? If they say, oh, my husband wants me to get that done. Well, that's not the right reason to get it done. A person should be getting it done for themselves. They shouldn't be doing it because somebody else is forcing them to get it done. They shouldn't be getting it because they have false ideas about things. Those are things that I think are wrong in the procedure. And any cosmetic surgeon worth their salt would talk to patients about those. And they don't do procedures just because a person asks them to.
Wow, that sounds so liberating for me to hear from a cosmetic surgeon. Gosh, because I don't know how many doctors would say no. I don't know, because you see, you're looking at the business, you're looking at the income, you're looking at doing your job, but having your diary full, it's complex. There's so many implications, but I feel that in a way, not all the doctors are saying no, Dr. Lycka. Let's think of Michael Jackson, what he did to himself.
Michael Jackson was a pretty rare case. I mean, he was a person that did have some problems. He did have some things, and he ended a death that was something that probably shouldn't have happened to him, And, I think people sometimes get things done for the wrong reasons. And as I say, any cosmetic doctor worth their salt denies people cosmetic surgery when they don't think it's in their best interest.
Beautiful. I feel in a way we will, or many of us, would love to stop the aging process, to look different. And I know from my therapy work that some people feel quite unhappy in their own bodies. It's an agony for some of them to actually go through life, to despise their physical home and to live with this desire to look different, because some of them believe that looking different, their lives would change. And part of the work we're doing is to explore this. What would actually change if you would look different? And then many imagine that after the first surgery, they will feel happier and all their worries have gone. But many of them, as you mentioned, they have to go back to do it again because this is not lasting forever.
And again, a good cosmetic doctor will explore that before they actually get surgery done, because surgery isn't right for a person that has false expectations. Surgery isn't right for people who want to get things done necessarily for happiness. It's not going to change your life. It's not going to change your job. It's not going to change your relationship with your spouse. It's not going to give you a raise. It's not going to get you to be a different person. Cosmetic surgery just makes you look the best for who you are and helps you to do the best. And, I put it akin to taking care of your hair and making your hair beautiful or making your eyes beautiful. Well, why do women use eye makeup to make their eyes accentuated? Why do women comb their hair or do different things to their hair? Again, it's because they want to look their best and do their best.
Yes, and it's part of the conditioning anyway, because you live in a social world and you follow the norms and you do
exactly.
what everyone is doing.
And as I say, for people who are condemning cosmetic surgery, I say, well, do you wear lipstick? And most women will say, of course I do. Well, the answer is, well, why do you do that? Well, because I want to make my lips look better. Well, there's nothing wrong with that.
It's the same thing, isn't it? I don't know
Yes.
if there are people that really condemn it
Yeah.
out of fear or I don't know what. But the reality is, this is an option. It's there for us. It probably improves the lives of many, many people around the world. I haven't done anything yet, but if I decide to do it one day, we'll see.
Exactly. And remember, it's your choice. And,
Yes.
we are determined by the choices we make in life. And choices, big and small, are really what determines who we are and what we do with things.
Yes, absolutely. Tell us a little bit about your show, the Inside the Cosmetic Surgery Today. Are you still running that or?
No, I moved on from that. When I was doing Inside Cosmetic Surgery Today, I'd interview doctors from around the world, and it was so popular. The doctors would talk about cosmetic procedures. They'd talk about the newest, the biggest, the best, and that. And so it became the number one show in cosmetic surgery in the world because there was such a demand for it. But, I decided myself that as I was retiring from cosmetic surgery in 2019, that I really wanted to move on to help people in other ways. I wanted to help people with the way that they are, with the way that they feel. So that's where I moved on from that show. And I decided to do another show. And my show now is called How to Live a Fantastic Life Show. And you've been a guest on that.
Yes,
and
it's
what we are
one.
trying to show people is how to live a fantastic life, how to be the best at what they can be, how they can do the best at who they are.
So let's answer some of these questions then. This is based on your book, The Secrets to Living a Fantastic Life. Maybe you can share some of your best learnings.
What my book is, The Secrets to Living a Fantastic Life, it was based on the fact, that I almost died. I came close to death. And as a result, I found things on the other side of death. I found 13 golden pearls that people can live by. And those golden pearls are little things that are found in everybody and can make everybody better. Now, the thing, I've always found that it's not what happens to you, it's what you do with what happens. So it's very important that that's a very big principle for my life. And I think it's also very important that you are 100% responsible for everything in your life. And that's very important. Now, what are the 13 golden pearls? Well, the first one is love. And number 13 is empowerment. So between there are all aspects of a human condition. All of them are right there. And I'm going to share with you a little bit about love, because I think love is one of the most important principles. And yet it's something we are desperately in need of in this day and age. Love is so important for us, yet we have a problem with understanding it. Now, I believe that love is stronger than reality. Desire is more potent than apathy. Hope is more powerful than despair. Joy always triumphs over sorrow. That laughter is the ultimate cure for man's foibles. And I believe as love is stronger than hate, and it's the greatest gift of all. That
fantastic.
I think it summarizes some of the things that are found in this book. So in each chapter, we talk about, and we start with a quotation, and then we go into a little story that'll bring you into it. And then there's the communication that Harriet and I had, that we had between us as we were writing this book. So it's a very unique book, and I'd recommend everybody to get a copy of it and put it on their bookshelf so that they can use it and refer to it. And what I found is it's like peeling an onion. The more you get into it, the more you learn. And I find that that is the benefit of a book like this.
We'll get the details at the end for our listeners. Now, towards the end, I'd like you to maybe share or help our listeners with some tips to change and transform their lives right now, starting today.
Let me tell you a little story. There was a carpenter, and his name was Fred, and he was tired. He had worked for the same company for 45 years, and he was done. He couldn't do it anymore. So he went to his boss, and he said to his boss, "Boss, I'm quitting. I just can't do this anymore." The boss was taken aback. He said, "Fred, you're my number one carpenter. You've helped me build every house that we've ever built." He said, "Could you do one more thing for me before you leave?" And Fred said, "Of course, boss. I've loved this job. It's been the only job I've ever had." So the boss said to Fred, he said, "Fred, can you build me just one more house? You must do it. You're my master carpenter. Only you can do this job." So Fred begrudgingly said yes, but his heart was not into it. He dragged his ass to work every day and barely got the job done. And at the end, a miracle happened. The house passed inspection. So Fred went back to his boss and he gave the keys to the last house to the boss and said, "Boss, I'm done." And the boss said, "Just hold it, Fred. We're going to have a beautiful party." So they called everybody in the office together. They popped the champagne. They had the caviar. And then the boss gathered everybody around and he said, "Everybody, this is Fred's last day. I'm so sad he's leaving, but I've got a special gift for Fred." He said, "Fred, here's the keys to the last house you ever built. Live in it with all the enthusiasm you've shown me all those years." Now, the reason I tell you this, Nicoletta, is enthusiasm's not a Monday thing. It's not a Tuesday thing. It's not a Friday thing. It's the thing you carry to the game every day. And if you carry it to the game every day, you're going to make a difference. You're going to make the difference every way that you can. And I'm going to challenge your listeners today, to Nicoletta, to do something for somebody else today that they wouldn't regularly do. I want them to pay it forward. I want them to give something from the heart today. Maybe it's as small as going to their neighbor and saying hi that they haven't said to for a while. Maybe it's to bring them a dozen cookies that they made themselves. Maybe it's to help them with some yard work that they couldn't do. You know, little things make all the difference. Pay it forward. Do it for things. That's how you make the world a better place.
I love the fact that you talk about service, being of service to others, contributing, giving. That's very powerful. It really brings a sense of meaning in life and a sense of purpose as well. And I would add to this being grateful for this beautiful gift that we have today. I think it was Ralph Waldo Emerson that said, "For every 60 seconds of anger, you lose 1 minute of happiness." So it's up to us to decide how we want to experience life in this very moment. If we want to be present to this experience that is happening right now, or give ourselves to rumination from the past or worries for the future. So towards the end, I want to say thank you so much for everything. I'd love to ask if you can maybe share with the listeners, where can they find out more about you and where can they order the book?
You know, they can get all these things through my website, Dr. Alan Lycka. That's DRALLEN, Lycka, LYCKA.com. And if anybody would like to approach me with something that they need help with, I offer a free 15-minute consultation as well, just to help people get on the right track. So my assistant Tammy can help everybody that, and that's all available on my website. Now they can get the book from my website, and the most convenient way to get my book is on Amazon.com. It's called The Secrets to Living a Fantastic Life. I'm Dr. Alan Lycka, Drallen, Lycka, Lycka. And I look forward to helping you in any way I can.
Fantastic. I can't say otherwise. Thank you so much, Dr. Lycka. It's been a wonderful conversation. I'm grateful for your time, for what you're giving us today.
Let me thank you for having me on your show. It truly has been an honor and a privilege to be here.
Thank you.